morning, everyone. It's March. So lately, as I near the end of the morning meditation here, it's around 6:30, and I gaze outside. I look up and gaze outside, through the window beneath the altar here. And I notice how bright it is now. Just a month ago, during the winter, this same moment was still cloaked in darkness. Observing this natural shift, I wonder in awe. How does nature know when the time has come? Without hesitation, without resistance, the world moves through its cycle, its unceasing, unfaltering cycle of day and night, summer and winter. Nature simply follows its rhythm, flowing through every living being, shaping our lives, whether we recognize it or not. And I thought, just as nature follows its cycles, we human beings cultivate and manifest our inner strength when we align ourselves with the natural rhythm of the day and night. We do this by living with a steady daily routine, ensuring that our time is well spent and our energy is preserved and our spiritual practice deepens with each passing day. So today, I want to talk about the importance of an evening routine and how preserving night energy can support our spiritual practice. Mr. Sotaesan, the founding teacher of Won Buddhism, emphasized cultivating our spirit through our daily life rather than seeking extraordinary techniques or secret methods. 100 years ago in Korea, those searching for the way often withdrew from society, retreating into deep mountains to live as monks. But Master Sotaesan taught that this path was unnecessary and did little to benefit the greater world. He proclaimed that the great path is the one that can be practiced by all people, men and women, busy or free, layperson or clergy. In Won Buddhism, so we follow a daily cycle of practice. It's like this. In the early morning, we cultivate our spirit through meditation. During daytime, we engage in work wholeheartedly in our responsibilities, striving for both financial independence and contributing to the world. Master Sotaesan taught that work and spiritual practice should not be separate. In the evening, we reflect on the day, observe how we used our mind and body during the day, and take a moment for evening meditation before resting for the night. There's nothing complicated about this. And yet, within this simple daily routine, the profound path of awakening unfolds. Since I began walking this path in Won Buddhism, I have tried to live in accordance with this teaching. And in doing so, I realized something important. A new day actually begins the night before. How we spend our evening shapes how we start the next morning. And how we begin the morning sets the tone for the entire day. So today I want to share how we can use our nighttime wisely in a way that nurtures our well-being and deepens our practice. According to Taoist philosophy, energy in the universe varies depending on the time of day. Nighttime is believed to be a period when energy is naturally cultivated and restored. And Mr. Sotaesan himself deeply valued this time. Despite spending his whole life working to establish a new spiritual order, he regarded nighttime as his own time, saying, "Nighttime is my time." He turned off his light and preserved night energy instead of filling his night with endless tasks for the community. When I was a novice, I had the honor of working at the Dharma Master's office for 1 year. Mr. Chwasan, the Dharma Master at that time, told us that we must refrain from excessive activities in the evening and instead use this time to deepen our practice. As a young novice, I didn't like that idea. I wanted to go out, to like exercise and doing other things that I was not able to do during the daytime. And now some of you might be thinking, that's fine for monks. But I have so many things to do in the evening, right? But I don't think Master Sotaesan or Venerable Chwasan were any less busy than we are. We live in a world filled with endless distractions. Netflix, television shows, social media, emails, and notifications that demand our attention. These things may seem small, but they scatter our spiritual energy and prevent us from truly resting. That's why preserving night energy is more important now than ever. So I encourage you to create your own evening routine based on the principle of Jonyagi, honoring the quiet, regenerative power of the night. And one essential practice that I want to encourage you to incorporate into your nighttime routine is self-reflection. In one Buddhist scripture, the red-covered book back there, there is a chapter on the Dharma of journaling that describes 5 essential aspects of daily life that we can track. They are how mindful or unmindful we were in our habits. Second, how much time you spent in meditation or studying scriptures. Third, how well you kept the precepts. There are 30 precepts in one Buddhism. And fourth, how you used your time during the day. And how you used your money. So these are like guidelines for self-awareness in helping us to live with greater intention. So today I want to focus on just one specific practice from this list, recording your work hours. So this is about how you spent time. Mr. Sotaesan advised his disciples to track how much time did they spend on various activities during the day, working, studying, eating, resting, and sleeping. At the time, the lifestyle was pretty simple. Most of his disciples were farmers. At the time, they didn't own a watch, and some were illiterate. And yet, he still instructed them to practice this daily habit. Given these challenges, disciples were trained to develop this sense of time awareness during retreat periods, where they could practice under guidance. One such disciple was Venerable 청타원님, whose journals were later published as an important reference for Won Buddhist practitioners. It's one of my favorite books. And each of her entries began with a breakdown of her day. Like among 24 hours, 7 hours for sleeping, 8 hours for studying, 3 hours for eating, 6 hours for resting and playing. And this was followed by a reflection on a specific event or an awakening moment of the day. What's the point of this practice of tracking time? Mr. Sote-san explained the purpose of this practice in our scripture. If there are wasted time, we should be heedful not to repeat them, ensuring that we do not fritter away even a moment of our time. If we truly wish to live fully, we want to live our life fully. That's why you are here, right? To become a better version of yourself and to be more mindful. Then we must become mindful of how we use our time today. The way we spend our time reflects the way we direct our mind and energy. That's why we have this practice in Buddhist scripture, in one Buddhist scripture. But I know sometimes it can be difficult to tell, was my time well spent or wasted? For example, if you spend an hour watching Netflix, and if you enjoyed it, was the time well spent or wasted? How would you check at the end of the day? Well spent. I think the answer depends on your intention. Now, if you consciously chose to watch something as a way to relax and unwind, and you did so in moderation, then that time was not wasted. However, if you mindlessly scrolled through social media or watched YouTube videos on impulse, unaware of how time slipped by, then that time was likely wasted time. Does it make sense? So you can ask yourself, did I use Netflix or was I used by Netflix? To help us build greater awareness, I invite you to take just a few minutes every night to reflect on these 3 simple questions. What was the most meaningful activity for me today? Or what was the activity that I liked the most? Second, is there something I wish I had spent more time on? How can I do that? The third, is there something I wish I had spent less time on? How can I change that? These questions not only help us review the day, but also help us plan for the next day. For me, this reflection process takes only about 15 minutes. Yet it has been profoundly effective and helpful in helping me become more mindful and intentional with my time. And in other words, my life. So without review and reflection, how can you ensure that our days unfold as we want them to. Once I became more mindful of my evening routine, I started noticing two other crucial factors that had a major impact on my practice, on my evening practice. The other two factors are food and sleep. For a long time, I used to sleep only 5 to 6 hours a night. I thought feeling tired in the afternoon was just normal. But one day, I happened to sleep for 8 full hours. And the next morning, I felt lighter. And throughout the day, I felt calmer and more focused. My mood had improved for no apparent reason. Interestingly, these are the exact qualities we aim to cultivate through meditation. Inner clarity and inner peace of sense and focus, better focus, aren't they? So as I observe my day through the reflection journaling at night, it became obvious that there was the cause and effect relationship between sleep and my spiritual practice. If I went to bed late, I couldn't wake up early. If I couldn't wake up early, I had to skip or rush my morning routine. There are rituals that I do in the morning time before I go to morning meditation. And my morning meditation suffered. If I begin a day in this way, in a hurry, and I found myself less mindful, less focused, and at the end of the day, I often felt regret. Eventually, it became clear to me how I sleep affects how I begin the next day. How I begin the next day determines how I live the entire day. Once I saw this pattern, I started regarding sleep as part of my daily practice, just as important as meditation itself. So what does it mean to us? First, it means that you need to get enough sleep for yourself. It may differ depending on people. For some people, this 7 hours enough, or some people may need 8 hours or more. For me, 7 hours. I found that 7 hours sleep is ideal for me. But I know this can be challenging. For many people, nighttime feels like the only time that they can truly relax after a long day, right? A long day of work or taking care of your family. So we stay up, watching the shows, scrolling through our phones, or indulging in entertainment. I completely understand. I sometimes feel the same, especially after a busy and exhausting day. And as someone living in America with English as my second language, I used to feel pressure to myself to always be learning, watching something in English or reading something in English using the evening time. But over time, I came to redefine my priorities. I no longer want to sacrifice my mental, physical, and emotional well-being for the sake of doing something more. So I made it a rule. After evening chanting ends at 9 p.m., ministers get together to practice chanting. Then right after that session, I go to bed. It takes practice to do this, and I try my best to keep this. You might be thinking, But if I sleep more, I'll have less time to do things. But it's not necessarily like that. Investing 1 extra hour in sleep, it doesn't mean you have less time. Do you know why? It means you use your time more effectively during the daytime because your mind is clearer and your focus is sharper. Scientists say that when you are trying to learn something, whether it's physical or mental, a critical process happens while we sleep. I remember when I was a child learning piano, there was a difficult section I practiced over and over. Hundreds of times I repeated that part, yet I kept making the same mistake. And the next day, when I sat down at the piano, and suddenly I could play it perfectly. Do you have similar experience? It's because during sleep, our brains organize and strengthen what we learn. Mr. Taesan, the third Hetarma master of Won Buddhism, said, even though all things in the universe seem to grow during the daytime, they actually grow during the night. All things seem to grow and mature during the springtime, but in fact, they grow during the winter. Just as plants need time in the dark to grow, we need to rest to cultivate our spirit at night. But sleeping enough hours is not the only thing that matters. Sleeping well is just as important. Scientists say that using digital devices at night, smartphones, tablets, or computers, it disrupts our sleep cycle. The blue light, you've heard the word blue light. It emits from the screens, and the blue light suppresses the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone. This makes it harder to fall asleep and lead to lower quality rest. So I encourage you to explore balance skillfully, such as reducing screen time before bed, or use blue light filter. Create an evening routine that helps you wind down naturally. It takes practice, but over time, small changes can make a huge difference. As I became more mindful of my sleep, I noticed another important factor. As I said, it's food. If I overate for dinner, I felt uncomfortable, and my evening chanting and meditation suffered, and my sleep suffered. There are certain foods that your tongue may enjoy, but your body does not. In general, foods that are too sugary, right, highly processed, and deep fried, usually they can cause energy crashes, mental fog, and restlessness. Do you experience that? So instead of engaging in meaningful evening activities, I would just feel sluggish and seek easy entertainment if I have a heavy dinner. And similarly, if you eat too late at night, and if you enjoy evening snacks, then your body stays busy digesting instead of resting and healing. That's when I realized that my evening routine actually begins with dinner. I always feel this way. So when your stomach is at ease, your body and mind can truly rest. In this way, sleeping and eating, it became an extension of my spirit. So again, our daily life and our spiritual practice are not separate. Our mind and our body are not separate. Today, I shared 3 simple but powerful aspects of a mindful evening routine. Prioritizing sleep as part of your practice, and being mindful of food choices, especially for dinner, and creating an evening reflection routine. So when we cultivate a meaningful evening, we awaken the next morning with clarity, energy, and purpose. So tonight, before you go to sleep, I encourage you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, how did I spend my time today? How did I spend my time today? What small changes can I make to sleep and rest better? May we all learn to preserve the night energy and use it wisely for our spiritual growth. Thank you for listening.